Carbohydrates are not making you fat. Stop telling people that. Stick around, I'll tell you why. All right, I got a little fired up there, but as a general rule, guys, carbs are not what's making you fat. Too many calories, that's what's making you fat. Eating too much throughout the day, coupled with not moving enough. Modern society, a lot of us have sedentary lifestyles because of jobs and the way things have shifted. If we're not moving, if we're not exercising, we're not burning enough calories, and then we're putting too many in, that's what's making us fat, again, as a general rule. But with that said, not all carbs are created equal. If we're eating entirely too many processed foods, that is going to have a negative effect on our health. So things with a bunch of sugar added, things that are bleached, enriched, those kinds of things, that's the stuff that is hurting our bodies. And we have to make a mind frame change. We got to start thinking like athletes, because that's what you are. Your body was designed to be athletic. Start treating it that way, start fueling it that way. So the moral of that story is processed, bad, unprocessed, wholesome, much better for us. So let's talk about some tips so you can get some wholesome, minimally processed, no sugar added sources of carbohydrates to fuel you as an athlete. All right, tip number one on the list, we're going to talk about some wholesome grains. Things like quinoa, rice, oats, barley. Not the kind that you're brewing and turning into beer. It's got a whole different video and a whole different effect. But those kinds of things, they're unrefined for the most part. They're minimally processed. We want to stay away from things like white breads, pastas, Pop-Tarts, stuff like that. Anything that says it's enriched on it, when you read the label, that means it's been highly processed. Get rid of it. We don't need that kind of stuff. Number two has kind of been an enemy for some reason in the news. I don't know why, but fruits, berries, oranges, apples, things that are a natural sugar source. Those are great. We don't want to get them from a can. Get them fresh. Those are going to be the best ones for us. The bonus to that, you're going to get some antioxidants, you're going to get some vitamins, you're going to get some minerals out of it. That's the kind of things that we want to put in our body. All right, number three, vegetables. How about things like sweet potatoes? Stuff that's not smothered in BS. You take BS for what you want. I was talking about brown sugar. Broccoli, spinach, kale, squash. Again, we talk about those antioxidants and those minerals, maybe even a little bit of fiber. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Those are the kind of things that we want to make sure, again, as athletes, that we're using as fuel. Number four, back to that fiber. How about legumes and beans? Chickpeas, black peas, pinto beans, lentils, things like that. Good sources of fiber, good sources of protein, good sources of carbohydrates, minimally processed or not processed at all, no added sugar. Again, we keep coming back to that. Those are those things that we're talking about. Number five is one of those things that not a lot of people think about as a carbohydrate source, particularly an unprocessed or minimally processed one, and that's dairy. But we want to make sure it's unsweetened. Things like Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt, which by the way is also a fat burning hack, but we'll get to that in another video. These are things that are going to help get us quality carbohydrates, a good fuel source for us, but also with the dairy side of things, particularly with yogurt, now we're talking about helping our gut biome, keeping healthy digestive stuff going on. It's going to help with digestion, so now we're getting more out of the food that we're putting in because we're digesting it better. And while we're on the other videos to come down the line thing, how about homemade bars? Things that we can include in that: seeds, nuts, dried fruit, not the packaged stuff. You can dry that on your own. Oats, we want to make sure it's minimally processed. We won't want to be adding any additional sugar to that. But again, now we're talking about increasing our protein throughout the day, increasing our quality carbohydrates throughout the day, and even adding some good fats into there. And for number seven, I'm going to circle back to that potato kind of thing that I mentioned a couple of tips ago. Let's talk about some root vegetables. Sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, carrots, radishes, things like that. Those, again, are quality sources of carbohydrates. They are going to make sure that we're not spiking our insulin levels too much. Plus, they're going to give us some great vitamins, some great minerals, great antioxidants, all of those things that as athletes and as human beings we need to not just survive, but to thrive. So there we go, folks. There's some tips, some ways to get quality carbohydrates into our system, into our training programs, into our nutrition programs. Stop blaming carbs for making you fat. They're not making you fat. Circling back to that, it's the processed crap that we're putting in our body. It's not moving enough. That's what's making us fat. That's what's making us obese, and that's what's leading to those chronic health problems that we see day in and day out. So Got any other questions, hit me up. Don't forget to give us a follow.